What's up, guys? It's Corbin Saki at PixelTalk.
Oh my god, can you believe it?
We're making a big Hollywood YouTube video.
Wow, it's high quality. We are going to be the greatest.
I did this movie for you, Greg. I mean, Mike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Corbin, I don't know, man. I mean...
I'm going to talk like that throughout the entire week now. Yeah, so if you guys can't tell, we saw Disaster Artist tonight. We finally saw it. We didn't see it last week, even though the movie was being released last week. It's finally in the Orlando area, and we got to see it. We are pretty familiar with The Room. We've seen parts of The Room, which this movie is based upon. We've seen scenes on YouTube, and we know that this film has a cult following. And we were really excited to see this film because it is essentially about the behind the scenes of this said, terrible film. And it was just really interesting to see because it was made by these people, James Franco and Seth Rogen, who really appreciated The Room. It's one of the worst films ever made, and they love it. So knowing that they really love this film and they made kind of like a biopic about it had me really hooked, and I've been waiting for this for a very long time. And seeing it tonight, I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just to see, because like you said, it's based off of a horrible movie, right? So how to see that, I guess, to see its birthplace from where the movie had originally started to where it took itself just within production. Not even just that, but seeing more into the life of Tommy before, which is the director and the actor of The Room, the main lead.
Yeah, he did everything. He wrote it, he acted in it, he directed it, he was a producer. He essentially this was his own movie. It was crazy to see that.
Yeah, so to see him build a friendship with his friend Greg, which is another real character in the actual world that even played in the movie The Room, to see them build this bond and kind of just off in a whim, hey, we're moving to LA, and then it was all in the pursuit of a dream, which it really hit home with us too.
Yeah.
Because we're both two filmmakers. Right now we're in college, so we've had a couple short films, we have YouTube videos under our belts and stuff, but to see the whole process of a feature length film, especially taken under the wing of pretty much this one guy, and having it come true and come to fruition was pretty awe-inspiring, just because it shows that he didn't have the experience, right? But still,
he had the financing and he was able to do it for sure. Like I was telling you, we saw this at such a perfect time because we go to film school right now, and a lot of the stuff we understood. We know what a C-stand is. We know what all these film rigging stuff are, and we know what a DP is. You're a DP. I want to be a director. So we saw this at such a perfect time because we ourselves know what it's like to be on set. And seeing all these different issues and problems happen during the making of this film, we chuckled a lot because we understand how exhausting that could be, especially when you're working with someone such as Tommy Wiseau. Because this guy is out of his mind, and I feel as though James Franco really did a good job with this role. I totally forgot that it was James Franco. I actually bought that it was Tommy Wiseau.
I mean, even seeing the side-by-sides, you can find them on YouTube, the comparisons between the two, The Room and the Disaster Artist. You'll sometimes get confused because it's whoa, this almost looks like the same kind of person, That's another thing for me too. Maybe the voice was a little bit a bit too eccentric, but it really touched on the fact that this guy was completely from another planet almost.
Yeah, this it was really interesting to see kind of just before they make the movie, they're actors in LA and they're trying to get out there and they're going through the casting processes of trying to get into a film, which I actually did that last weekend where I actually had to be a casting director. I had to go through all these people to see if they were right for a role, and it was I actually found a guy that was kind of reminding me of Tommy Wiseau, where it was a really ridiculous guy. And he just didn't fit the part whatsoever. And it was very interesting to see him going through this process of trying to become an actor. But nobody's taking him seriously whatsoever. He's trying to talk to producers who are just hell no, you are not going to be anywhere near my project. So, but at the same time, even though it is really ridiculous and you don't see this guy being in a super like movie project, because it is very cringeworthy, you kind of do feel for him because it's very awe-inspiring, and no matter the negativity that comes his way, it's very, it's well noted. You see, like, even though he is essentially terrible, it's like, I kind of want him to succeed. That's what the movie does really successfully too. And James Franco does, like I said, an amazing job. This is the only project, I mean, there's probably like more movies out there with him and his brother Dave Franco, who plays Greg in this, but I can say that this is the best chemistry that I've seen from the both of them in a movie. Like, like they're brothers in real life, and it's just like, it was very cool to see finally a film where they're both working together. It was very interesting too, because like, this movie's based upon a film where Tommy Wiseau is like the star, and he's also the director, whereas The Disaster Artist, James Franco in the star, and he's also the director. So that was very interesting as well. It was very interesting to see like kind of like that similarity. Yeah, they really I feel like they really acknowledge a lot of the key points about The Room. Oh yeah, they really did.
Definitely. There's like a few, if you've ever seen the movie, there's quite a few moments where it's just like, what the hell was happening? Like, how did they go past this? And they explain that in the movie. It's actually in the trailer how the whole part where Tommy walks out and he's like, oh, hi Mark, how it shows that even if you watch the original Room, it's like, geez, it's kind of like cringy almost.
It's very cringy.
You know what I mean?
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
They told that story, and I'm not doing any spoilers here because this was also, you could check it out on the trailer, whatever. But they explained it how he took like 68, 69 takes to get that one shot. So they made it seem like, oh, geez, we've been on this all day. Like, we just need to get this out the way. And so that's kind of how they incorporated that. Like, I don't know if everything in this movie was completely true and based in fact, because there's, conflicts that are within the story that I don't know.
That felt very Hollywood almost.
Yeah, like, exactly. You had to make it more spicy and interesting, right? Because it's like that rising action. It always follows that basic, like, okay, your first act, you meet your characters. Second act, you put them through shit, and then third act is the climax and resolution. And so it really like followed that kind of that line that you see.
I totally,
So I don't know if that was 100% what happened.
This made me want to read the book because apparently, I think the book. Let me look this up real quick. Actually,
one thing about the movie that was kind of interesting is that they kind of went outside the boundary of what a script supervisor does. Because
Seth Rogen was amazing as a script supervisor because like he essentially was kind of like the director, because when Johnny was like acting, he had to kind of step in and like, hey, maybe you shouldn't like convey it like this, like whatever you're doing, because there are parts where I like that part of the movie as well, where like it's not just like they went out there and they made these scenes for this film and they just that's what they were going for. There was that questioning on set, like they acknowledge like, hey, like this is actually kind of weird, why are you doing it like this? So I really enjoyed those portions where it was that familiarity of the original film, but it was like, hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? So exactly. I really like that.
But then also more so, maybe that's another thing that they maybe did to beef up Seth Rogen's part. But it was also like, well, because we know the technicalities that come on set, the script soup wouldn't step up and be the director. But what I think they did, and they did it for good reason, is because this wasn't a professional set. This wasn't something that was completely planned out and thorough like most movies are. It showed that it was this dysfunctional kind of process.
He had no experience whatsoever.
Exactly. So,
I just looked it up, and Greg did write the book. So it's hard to tell, like, because like I don't know how much of the book the movie gets, but he did write the book, so maybe that's in there where like they had some confrontation and stuff like that. Like I said, I really want to read the book after watching this because I want to see exactly what was true, what apparently happened on set. This movie seems to be conveying that a little bit though, so it was very interesting to see for the most part. But yeah, oh my god, yeah, this was just, I felt like I said, we saw this at a time where it's very relatable because we're going to school and everything, and you see the problems that are arising on set. And whenever you're on set and you're on set for like 12 hours and it's a long day, it's a long process, and you're gonna have people that you're gonna fight with, like you're gonna get into arguments, and you got to maintain some professionality, but at the same time it's like you're also working with Tommy Wiseau, and it was really interesting to see like trying to interact with this guy who is very persistent and somewhat passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And it was just I can't imagine them doing this movie back in 2002.
Oh my god, yeah. But you gotta also building on that, what you said about working with Tommy Wiseau, is that this movie throws you in and you automatically know like something is off with this guy.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, like something, I don't know what it is. It's like I'm sure James Franco nailed it too.
Oh yeah.
You can tell that he probably had a lot of time with this guy to try and nail that part. Ultimately because he did. But you look at the certain mannerisms and the way that he speaks to people, and it's just like...
It's like, what? Like,
yeah, like that is...
There's something... I don't want to like get into medical terms, but it did seem like a kind of form of Asperger's.
Yeah,
like it just he had a hard time communicating with people. So I in terms of James Franco's performance, like he absolutely nailed it out of the park. Like I said, I totally forgot that it was James Franco, and I actually bought that it was Tommy Wiseau. And Dave Franco was actually really good as well. I don't see Dave Franco in a whole lot of movies. Like, he was in 21 Jump Street, but like he was just like the villain and everything.
Yeah.
He was in like a terrible Vince Vaughn movie back like 2 years ago.
He was in Dare.
Oh, he was in Dare? Oh,
you remember that movie with
the I can't think of it. We'll put it in the description or caption.
Yeah, with what's her name?
It's a blonde chick.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated how like this was finally like a role where he is like kind of key. He's like the supporting character. He's not just like some guy on the side. He's actually like in a role in a film, and I think he did an amazing job. Do you think that this movie, like, it's really ironic that we're talking about like a film based on a really terrible film? Do you think that this film deserves any kind of Oscar or maybe a nomination at least?
Well, yes, I do think it deserves to be looked at because I feel the Academy is so like, it's pish posh. We have to have.
It has to be Victorian.
Yes, the best only.
The set design,
stories,
less CGI, more practicality,
and everything has to be completely nailed. And that was the thing, is that, they took this opportunity to show, one, like you said, behind the scenes, and show the making of a horrible movie, and they really made it quite the masterpiece. I mean, people will argue that The Room's a masterpiece on its own, but I truly think what was amazing about this movie was seeing the road that they took to getting there, and the whole motive and theme of following your dreams and just doing what you love.
It's a story.
Like, yeah, that's
a story.
That's the whole driving point, and I think that's what really made it impactful on me.
I think what's really going to turn people off from this, and I'm going to use my dad as an example. He does not really like the Seth Rogen and James Franco group. And when he saw this trailer and he saw James Franco, he said that looked incredibly stupid. But if you put, like, that's what he doesn't understand, that this is like a biopic and this is based on a real person. He actually acts like that in real life. That is his persona. That's Tommy Wiseau. If you go into this and if you understand that this is a film based on an actual person that is alive right now, and put that aside and actually judge it for something that actually happened and is also trying to convey this really inspirational theme, I think you're really going to enjoy this film. Granted, yes, it has a really weird character, but the story is great. I love this. Yeah, I've loved it for sure.
Well, like he said, this protagonist, it's almost like an anti-hero. And if you know anything about anti-heroes, they're not typically the best kind of role models, but it's still someone that you look towards in that movie to succeed, because you're like, oh man, I really wish that, he ends up making it big and all this stuff. Of course, we knew the outcome later on. Now that looking at it in retrospect, it's cool that it has a cult following. But originally, the movie was not favored at all.
No,
like it said in the movie that the original release of The Room only made $1,800 on its first weekend.
Yeah,
and it didn't make much more after that. It was almost a decade later that people started picking it up and watching it and
Yeah.
just kind of like making more of a joke out of it.
I think that's due to Adult Swim, because every April Fool's they air this film, and I
Really?
think, yeah, that's it's gained more of a cult following from that, and the internet is also a reason why this film has been acknowledged over the past few years, like with Nostalgia Critic reviewing it, Chris Stuckman reviewing it. It's essentially, Adult Swim, the internet, and that's the reason why it's become such a huge cult following, is because it's been able to outsource. So that's another reason.
And that's
for sure.
It's definitely not the first movie to do that, And,
no.
if you look back, Monty Python and The Quest for the Holy Grail wasn't favored at all in theaters either. But it's actually one of the most, I think personally, one of the most hilarious movies ever. But they made it purposely to be hilarious. And I think that's the difference between these two things. The comparison is that The Room was a serious story, but wasn't executed that way, mostly because of the acting and the way shots were handled, or mannerisms that were on during some of the takes and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it ended up being something of hilarity later on, and it takes you through that entire process, and it's really cool.
That's why The Room is heavily favored, because it's a film that's trying not to be funny, and it's funny.
Yeah.
And there are films out there where they're trying to be funny and they're not, and that's why we legit hate those movies. That's why we labeled those bad movies. But The Room, it is a bad movie, but the difference between this movie and every other bad movie out there is that we love it because it's trying to be serious, but it's actually really funny. It's an accident. It's a perfect accident.
Yep.
And this film totally conveys as to what happened on set, why certain things were written into the script, the questions that arise because this character was making this film, and I absolutely loved it. Yes, I do think that I don't know if like James Franco should win an Oscar. I definitely think that he should be acknowledged and gain a nomination. Let's see what happens. I think they're going to be announcing it in January or whenever Oscars are like nominated. We have to wait until like the year is over because it's obviously going to be pertaining to 2017. We have to wait till 2017 is over to like for all the movies to get out there. And I'm actually kind of excited for the Oscars this year. I really want to see what gets nominated. Hopefully maybe Get Out gets nominated for something. Maybe Logan gets nominated. I will definitely be doing a top 10 or whatever number this year for movies. I've already written a list down. I just gotta wait for Star Wars. Just gotta wait for Star Wars.
Come on, Star Wars.
Yes.
One last thing. I definitely think that this movie has deserved its name as the disaster artist, because on set, in pre-pro, and during production, and even post, the whole thing was a disaster. But that's what makes what we do and what Tommy Wiseau does so awesome, is that regardless, it's an art form.
Yeah.
And that's what it turned out to be in the end.
One thing that I will say, and you just reminded me of something, the only problem that I have with the film, and it's not really like necessarily a problem, it's just something that they didn't include in the film, is they go into detail about pre-production and production on this film, but they never really go into detail as to what happened in post-production. Yeah. Because in the original The Room, there is a lot of ADR that just doesn't fit because Tommy has like that accent that is really unclear on set, and then maybe they decided to do ADR after the movie was filmed.
What client? I cannot tell you. It's confidential.
Oh, come on. Why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
And I really wanted to see that process of what it was like for him to record ADR after the movie, and that's just something that they didn't really acknowledge, but that's fine. It was cool just to see the production, but it would have been cool just to see like this little post-production thing, like because that is another reason why The Room is terrible, is because of the ADR. The ADR is bad, but besides that, absolutely loved it, and I couldn't agree more. Like that's why it's called The Disaster Artist, because it's a guy trying to make something of art, and it's a complete disaster. But that's why people love it, because it's this complete awesome accident of a film. So yeah, guys, that was our review of The Disaster Artist. Comment down below what you thought of this movie. Subscribe to Michael's channel. I'm going to put it in the description down below. We've actually been doing some like minor reviews on his channel as well. We did a review to Coco, which we saw last week. Really cool movie. So if you want to check that out, the video is going to be on his channel. Like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey.
And I'm Michael Angelo.
And this is Pixel Talk.